Welcome to False Claims, Real Consequences.
Welcome to False Claims and Real Consequences with Stephen Teller, an accomplished whistleblower attorney who helps clients nationwide report fraud under programs run by the SEC, IRS, and U.S. Department of Justice. I'm Heidi Mack, and today we're talking about what being managed out of your job is. It's one of the most confusing and isolating experiences a professional can go through, and yet so many people face it in silence. In this episode, we'll unpack what being managed out really means, how to recognize the signs early, and most importantly, what you can do to take back your power and protect your career. This episode is Help, I'm Being Managed Out of My Job. Thank you so much again for coming back, Stephen. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, let's get to it here. What does it mean to be managed out of your job?
Well, so, for most of my career in employment law, people would just be fired at times of downturns. Sorry, it's not working out anymore. We're going to have to let you go. Maybe 2 weeks severance or something. And lately, what I've seen, Amazon, I think, is leading the charge here, is that there's an effort to document alleged poor performance and use that as a justification for the termination. And so you'll see this has been happening the whole time, but it's accelerating now, where the manager is putting the person to be targeted, under closer scrutiny, maybe treating them differently than other people, and just like documenting their alleged poor performance so they can use that as an excuse for the separation.
So then, say if I just got handed one of these unfair performance improvement plans, then what's the next step? What do I do?
Well, I mean, you kind of have to diagnose, are you really being targeted for outmanagement, or is there something going on with your performance that you can really turn around and that maybe keep the job? And I think most of the people who call me with it are in that former category, where they're like, okay, I don't deserve this. I'm hearing, I'm feeling the tone has changed. The handwriting on the wall is, I'm going to be gone and I'm not going to survive this performance plan. And so in that situation, instead of, working hard to try to show that you really are worthy of maintaining this job, there are some other strategies that I think make a lot more sense for people to try to delay the separation, maybe turn it around if there's something illegal going on, but try to maximize that separation if that's what's happening.
So why do you think, why are they trying to force me out of the company?
Some companies have a turnover process, right? For example, again, Amazon is getting rid of 5 to 10% of people every year. This is not uncommon in tech, that they just think that, anybody now resting on their laurels from their prior good performance, or, maybe who's having a personal problem, or, mom got sick, or, a child got arrested, or things can happen that are distracting us from our jobs from time to time. And if those last very long, they can have, significant impacts on our performance. And many of these companies don't care if it was, you're working on your work-life balance, or, you're experiencing a personal crisis. So they just decided we're going to fire people. And every time we try to make these institutional decisions, we're going to make some false positives and false negatives. There's going to be people who don't deserve to be fired, or who are being fired illegally, caught up in the effort to get rid of the people who, aren't trying as hard anymore.
So, when they're doing these like performance, giving these improvement plans, is this like say it is false? Like, I mean, is it illegal, or you believe it's false, or how do you know if it's illegal?
Yeah. So employment in Washington state, and this is generally true nationwide, is what's called employment at will. So there's a few exceptions. It's illegal to discriminate, right? There's protected class discrimination: race, gender, disability, age over 40, religion, national origin. Veterans are protected. In some states, gender identity is protected better than in others. It's illegal to retaliate against somebody for complaining about those things, like, hey boss, stop touching me inappropriately. That's protected activity. Similarly, there's other protected activity, like workplace safety issues, or taking a medical leave, for example, is probably protected activity. And then there are contract issues. We made an agreement. It's formal. It's binding. You can't fire me right now or for those reasons. Those are rare, at least for most people. So if it's not on that list, it's not illegal. So even though the manager is saying, hey, you missed the deadline, and the manager verbally told you you could change the deadline, but claims they forgot or claims that didn't happen, just the falsehood alone, even if we prove it was false, doesn't mean it's necessarily illegal to fire the person. Management's allowed to make bad business judgments, and that's not illegal. So we really have to look for what might be behind it.
So, when this does happen, then like what are my options?
If this feels, somewhat legitimate, okay, yeah, I missed the deadline or I had trouble communicating with that person and that's why they didn't get their part done. And maybe I can improve here, you know, and you have a shot. If you're hearing from the manager, no, this is really, we have a couple of issues, but we want you to stay. If that's the tone, stay, work hard, get the job done, try to keep it, try to keep the job. If you have the sense that it's going to be impossible, and a lot of the out management, for example, at Amazon, they're just forcing people out. It's not really possible. The manager is incentivized to get rid of people. If that's the case, you can do three basic things, I think, to create delay, and try to extend the time when you have the job. You're extending your income, you're looking for another job to be able to move on. And those are at the right time to complain about the performance plan. This is unfair. It's unreasonable. These are the inaccuracies in it. This is why it's impossible to meet those milestones, for example. It's just an unfair plan. And HR will frequently intervene and modify the plan, right? Second, a complaint about discrimination. Right? If there is discrimination or retaliation or whistleblowing or something illegal going on here, then HR, again, will probably interrupt the performance improvement plan while they investigate. But the outcome will probably be we couldn't find discrimination. Okay. But they'll have looked into it, and there are some advantages to that. And then the third is a medical leave of absence, which you generally have rights to very long medical leaves of absence if they're appropriate.
Then yeah, like if you're trying to look for the medical leave, like how do you talk to a doctor about that?
Yeah, well, I think doctors are looking for symptoms, right? They're looking at checklists of symptoms to try to diagnose. And so, before going to the doctor, I think you got to think through what's going on in life and how it's out of balance. And so, and be ready. And I don't mean hand the doctor the list of 12 trivial symptoms. I mean, think through like, yeah, what is really off balance for me? I mean, go in with those major ones and feel them in front of the doctor again. I think about physical symptoms, emotional symptoms, social, I call it, and cognitive symptoms. And then I think the wrap up is sort of, if I weren't so flat, doc, I could probably beat this performance plan. But I'm so exhausted, I think I'll lose my job if I don't have some time off. And then, if the doctor doesn't offer, then, you can ask directly. And I have more to say about like those four areas, right? Physical symptoms, headaches, stomach aches, can't sleep, can't eat too much, sleep too much, right? I just don't want to get out of bed. I'm not taking pleasure in my normal activities, right? Or I've got knee pain because, I'm a runner and I like to run. But now I'm running all the time to get away from my thoughts about my job, and my knee is starting to hurt. See, there's the relevance back to the job. Or I've got low back pain and that's really bugging me. It's really hindering me right now. It's exacerbating my depression, etc. Emotional symptoms are those strong symptoms. This really jazzes me. I mean, I think our lives are difficult in the modern life. And so, if I were getting forced out from a job, I would be angry about the way that I'm being treated. I would be afraid for my future economic security. I would be grieving the loss of the planned future that I had at this company. And I would also feel like, what is wrong with me? Which doesn't make sense. I'm mad at my boss for railroading me out of here. So why am I thinking I'm guilty or ashamed of my failure? that doesn't quite make sense. And I think the answer there is because, and I don't want to blame my dad. This is just my made up example. My dad always wanted A pluses and I got some B minuses. And then, I feel bad about myself, and we're talking about childhood stuff that we all carry around, which is great for talk therapy and which is great for a long medical leave because talk therapy takes time, right? So bring those symptoms of those emotional feelings. Socially, what else is going on in life? I might be, like I said, my mom passed away. My spouse is tired of hearing about the problems I'm having. My child got arrested. I got audited by the IRS. It doesn't have to be, for this purpose at least, it doesn't have to be just related to the job. But of course, the fact of being in this circumstance at the job is important and it's very stressful. And then second, the isolation. Again, I don't talk to my mom because she's gone. I'm skipping my bowling league because the fact that I'm working too hard. I feel isolated. I'm not talking to my spouse. And finally, the cognitive symptoms. And one thing is, any thoughts of self harm. That's definitely worth. And that's one thing that happens to all of us, and it's worth talking to friends and doctors about. But also, having trouble concentrating. And here's where I wrap it all together. I'm lying awake at night, mad at my boss. So I don't sleep very well. So I can't really concentrate in the morning. And so I'm not doing a good job at work the next day. Right. Or I'm over focused on my job, or I don't want to think about it. Now I'm drinking a little more, or on my example with the runner, I want to run all the time, or those kinds of things. So I think, and then you wrap up with, so, if I weren't so exhausted, I might be able to handle this performance plan and keep my job. And I think if at that point the doctor doesn't say, do you think that some time off would be helpful? Then, you say, so I think some time off would be helpful. And it seems to be effective. And I'm not suggesting making anything up. I'm suggesting finding the things that are going wrong and bringing those up.
Well, then, Stephen, is there a right time to contact an employee attorney if you think you are being managed out because of these issues?
I think earlier is better. I mean, most people who, the cost of talking to a lawyer might be, a few $100s. It might be $1,000 even. And your job is worth, 90 a year or 500 a year or, so it's, or 60. I mean, it's still, and you can talk to lawyers. I think people who do this kind of work, this isn't the big moneymaker. Helping people is the motivation for it, not oh, I need $200 more to bother helping a person. So I think there are a lot of, I'll call us true believers who may be willing to do a sliding scale if you can kind of get our attention.
Do you think a lot of people don't even contact someone? They just let it happen to them?
Hard to know. I mean, I do think a lot of people feel mistreated, abused, and by that employer, and then don't realize that there is some control they can take. I think a lot of people do call employment lawyers with the sense of, I'm being wronged here, it must be illegal, when there really is just that limited set of exceptions to employment at will. And a lot of times the bad behavior of the employer isn't illegal, even if it's wrong, even if it's offensive and hurtful, even if it's not fair, it can't. But there are a lot of exceptions to employment at will. And when they try to falsify reasons for pushing someone out, it can look like discrimination, right? I mean, if I'm changing my story about why I want to get rid of you, that means I can't tell the truth about why I want to get rid of you. I want to get rid of you because I need my unregretted attrition point, and my manager tells me I have to get rid of someone. And 3 weeks ago you interrupted me in a meeting, and I'm irritated at you. Mm-hmm. That's not illegal, but they'll never say it. They always claim it's something else, and that trivial business reasons, the shifting reasons, the false reasons, those are also used to cover up discrimination.
Do you have any final thoughts for out there for somebody that is being, having this improvement plan thrust upon them and they feel like they're being managed out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always smart to check with a lawyer about what my options are, talking to friends and coworkers as well. But, yeah, I mean, give us a call, give other lawyers in your area a call. We're happy to try to help if we can. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. We appreciate you bringing all your knowledge on this subject for us.
Yeah. Again, thanks for asking. I could talk about this all day.
I know. I'm like, we only have a certain amount of time, but and we really appreciate it. And for all those listeners out there, if you're worried about being managed out of your job, visit stellarlaw.com to learn about what your options are and how to protect your job, your rights, and your peace of mind. So if you did like this episode or you think somebody needs some help, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. We appreciate you coming by.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.